very live on Facebook. So yeah, we can. It's 3 p.m. I think we can start. Well, I mean, we have a lot of people in the journal club afterwards. I don't think we have to delay it much. So hi everybody. Whoever's watching via Zoom or via Facebook, we're the Brazilian Reproducibility Initiative. This is our second issue of the debates in reproducibility thing we just invented. So it's, well, I mean, it's about different discussing different topics with cool people around the world. We're going to talk about community building in open science today. We have Sophia Crüwell from Matrix Berlin and Reproducibility, Anita Eerland from Open Science Community Utrecht, and Felippe Espinelli, which is from No Budget Science, which is kind of like us as well, little bit bigger than us, but our sister project. So I'll hand it over to Clarissa Carneiro, who'll be mediating today, and I'll be quiet after that. Just to let you know, this is also the first edition of Reproducibility Brazil, which is a journal club invented by Sophia and some other people in Oxford. So right after the debate, which is around 4 p.m., just after we finish, we'll move on to the journal club. We're now in webinar mode, so we have like the people who are talking on with screens, and like people who are watching are generally not being seen at the moment. Whenever the journal, I mean, but if you raise your hand with a question, we can always bring you in. So we can make you a speaker as well. And when we start the journal club, I mean, it's meant to be more informal. So we just like bring everybody in as speakers so we can discuss more freely. But for now, we'll keep the webinar format. So Clarissa, it's your turn. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. And first of all, I'd like to thank the speakers again for being here with us. I'm really excited about watching your presentations and have the chance to chat about your experiences. We, the Brazilian Reproducibility Initiative, we are a research project, but we also wanted to take advantage of this community that we gathered around this project. We have people from many different career levels spread around the country. And so I think we have the potential for changing the system and discussing things at many different instances. As Olavo mentioned, we are starting today with our first Reproducibility Brazil, a journal club. So, but I think that discussing papers is just one way of engaging with people around the common interest. And I think we'll hear about today not only about the reproducibility, but also different groups that develop different activities in their communities. We will start with Anita Eerland from Utrecht University in the Netherlands. She is an assistant professor of language and communication and cites her research on how linguistic cues influence our perceptions about an event. She is engaged in improving science at different organizations, and in 2018 she co-founded the Open Science Community Utrecht that organizes workshops and other activities I think we'll hear about in a minute. Next, we have Sophia Crüwell from the Meta Research Innovation Center in Berlin. She's a PhD student interested in the incentive structure and philosophy of science, and she co-founded also in 2018 the Reproducibility Journal Club in Oxford, and now she also hosts the Reproducibility podcast, right? And then we'll have Felippe from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. He's actually from our own research group, as Olavo mentioned, but his research is focused on understanding memory reconsolidation and stabilization. He is one of the organizers of our sister project, No Budget Science, and we'll be talking more about this in a bit. Okay, so we can start. I will try to keep notes of the questions that come up during the presentation if you guys want to write them up in the chat. But later you can also use the raise hand function in Zoom so that Olavo, I think, will be monitoring that and be opening the camera and microphone if you like to ask your own questions. So can start with Anita.
I think it's like very specific questions for like after the lecture. If you have like a very urgent one, you can do it, but like mostly we can leave the big questions for the discussion at the end, right? I think it's more fun like that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Anita, can you share your screen and can begin whenever you're ready?
Yes, okay, let's see. I think I tried to share it, but not sure whether it worked. Probably not.
No, I can.
Theoretically, I've authorized it. It should work, but I don't know. Did you click on the desktop thing? Because I mean, if you share your screen, it will pop up something like asking what you want to share. So you have to click on the window.
And then I selected the one that I wanted to share, but
we don't see it. Try to select the desktop. Sometimes it's better. Yeah, that goes. Cool.
Okay. Let's see if it works like this. No. How can I make sure that you see the full screen? Because right now you see all the next slides, right?
I don't know. Clicking on the presentation usually works for me.
Okay. Well. Okay. Well, never mind. Let's just get started. Thank you so much for the invitation to talk to you today about open science communities. What I will do is tell you why I founded the Open Science Community in Utrecht, what an open science community is, and how an open science community actually works. And I guess you all know probably what open science is, but I like to start by giving my own definition of open science. And for me, open science entails practices aimed at increasing the accessibility, transparency, robustness, and inclusiveness of science in order to promote scientific progress. And open science can include a large variety of practices. As you can see here in these two different illustrations. So it's more than just open access as is thought by some people. It also includes open data and citizen science and stuff like that, even open education. Now it is thought that open science improves the way we conduct science. And for over a decade, researchers that were intrinsically motivated to conduct open science have been involved in open science practices. But the transition to open science has been a little slow. And for large-scale adoption of open science practices, it is important that we reach people beyond the innovators and the early adopters. So we need people actually outside of the now open science bubble to make sure that we get to this large-scale adoption of open science practices. Now, one way to get more people involved is by having open science policies in place, right? Universities can say, we think open science is important and we want everybody to publish open access by a certain time. And there are more and more policies with respect to open science on a local level, so within universities, on a national level, but also international. But simply having policies in place doesn't make people adopt open science practices. Some people might. So there are people, the so-called open science experts, that are already practicing open science. And they probably don't need the policies to be in place for them to adopt open science practices because they were already motivated to engage in open science practices. Now then beyond the experts, there's a large group of people that are not practicing open science yet, but are at least interested in open science practices. So in order for them to adopt open science practices, they need to know what open science is, how you can practice open science, and why you should actually do so. And then you also have a group of researchers that are more or less ignorant when it comes to open science. So they either don't care about open science or they are actively against open science. And those researchers will probably only adopt open science practices when there are policies in place and when they really have to. But what I would like to stress today is that it's not a matter of whether there will be a transition to open science or not. This transition has already begun. And therefore, it is important to make this transition as easy as possible for everybody. So we should help each other. We should share knowledge. We should share experiences. And we should get together to discuss aspects of open science and inventorize the need for support. Now that's exactly why my colleague at Utrecht University, so Luc Brinkman, and I founded the Open Science Community in 2018. And what we wanted to do with this community is to make open science and open science knowledge more visible and accessible on a local level, so within our university. We really wanted to promote peer-to-peer knowledge exchange, because there might be colleagues that have open science experiences that you don't know about. We also wanted to inspire and enable researchers to take the next step, or the first step in the world of open science. And then we also wanted to identify obstacles and need for support to inform policymakers. Because if it's really easy to adopt open science practices, and if we all want to and think that's a good thing to do, then we already should practice open science by now. But that's not the case. So there are obstacles, and there are people that are in need of support, and we need to know what it is. Okay, so the group of researchers that are interested in open science but no experts yet are the target audience for our community. That doesn't mean that we don't include experts. We actually also need experts, because they have the knowledge that they can share among themselves, but they also have the knowledge to help out their colleagues. So we need them, and people that are interested and that have a little more experiences than the newbies with respect to open science, to help each other out. So the idea is to bring together people with almost no knowledge on open science and people with just a little bit more knowledge on open science. For example, a colleague that just pre-registered his or her study for the first time, and then shares that experience with a colleague who is about to pre-register. So by making sure that the gap between the one with the knowledge and the one that requests knowledge is as small as possible, I think that really helps getting people involved, more so than having an expert that everybody looks up to, because that makes people afraid to make mistakes or ask dumb questions. So we think that trying to make the gap as small as possible is really helpful. Let's see. We have several formats in place within our community. First of all, of course, we have a website, and we are currently working on a new website with more possibilities. But what we really wanted is our website to be a starting point for people that are looking for information on open science. And whenever possible, we will link to already existing sources, because there's so much information out there that it might be quite overwhelming for people that are new and are looking for information. So if you have a specific starting point for your search for information, that might be helpful, and we would like our website to be that. Then on our website, what you can see is all of our members. Now, membership is free, it's open for all, and it's actually meant to be a visible public support for and interest in open science. And all of our members can list the topics, the open science topics that they have experience on and that they would like to share knowledge about. So basically you're saying, hey people, you can contact me about these topics if you want to know more about it. But as I said, we don't want experts only within our community. We also want, we especially want those that are interested and do not have experience yet. So when people become a member, they can also indicate what kind of topics they would like to learn more about. And what we would like to do in the future through our new website is having some kind of matchmaking in place where you can match the people that have specific knowledge and match them to people that request specific knowledge. Then we communicate with our members and with non-members that are on our mailing list through a monthly newsletter. And we are also active on social media, so we have a Twitter account, and we also have a podcast. And then we organize events, of course. So we started out with a series of topic-specific workshops, as you can see here on the slide. And those workshops were open for everybody. So not really field related. And we felt that that didn't work quite that well because it's hard to go into more detail on a certain topic when there are so many differences between research areas. So this year we organized Open Science Symposia that last for half a day and that are specifically targeted to one faculty. And that actually worked quite well. We started out with a series, but then Corona came, so then we had to cancel all the events that we had planned. A new format that I like very much is our member initiatives, where members can initiate their own open science events or activity and recruit others from the community to participate. And I really like this idea because that's really what being part of a community is about. Now we're started out in Utrecht with this community, and currently there are 9 other communities within the Netherlands. And we're looking forward to expanding. So in Europe, there is also an open science community in Galway, Ireland, and there is also one in Sweden. And we are in close contact with each other. We try to help each other out and learn from each other's experiences. And we hope to add many more communities to our family to help people setting up their own community. Luke and I wrote a step-by-step tutorial that is really available. That actually was what most of the communities used. But Luke will also launch a so-called starter kit pretty soon. That includes all the information that you need if you want to start your own community. And if you like to get in touch, here's where you can reach out to our community or to me. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think we can go on to Sophia. I don't think I see any questions, urgent questions. So we'll just move along and then we have questions afterwards. Sophia, is it okay with your screen sharing thing?
Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah, great.
Okay, nice. Boa tarde a todos e todas. Meu nome é Sophia Crüwell. Muito obrigada pelo convite. Agradeço muito essa oportunidade de poder falar com vocês. And I'll continue the rest of this in English, which should hopefully be a lot less painful to your ears than that was. So as Clarissa said, I'll be talking about the global reproducibility community of journal clubs as a way to encourage discussions and engagement within science to work towards better science. As a basic intro, reproducibility is an international grassroots journal club initiative And there's also a podcast that's related to this, which goes by the same name. When we started the first Reproducibility Journal Club in Oxford in 2018, I was a master's student, Amy was a PhD student, and Sam had just started his postdoc. So we were all pretty early career, if master's doesn't even counts as career, I guess. We were all a bit dissatisfied with the sort of status quo in science, and we wanted the discussions surrounding reforms towards open and robust science to take up more space. So we started a journal club. Turns out no one can really stop you doing that. Yeah, going on from that, things somewhat escalated. There are now 92 journal clubs. Yeah, right, 92, God. In 25 different countries across the world. We've grown into a proper little international community, and the virtual Reproducibility Journal Club in Brazil is the newest member, I think. And I'm really excited about that. We even had our first sort of international meeting last week, which was held virtually, of course, because of Corona. And I think we had just under 200 attendees in the end. There's a link to the recording if you're interested. I think there were some really nice talks, and there was a really nice talk and a panel. But I'll post these slides online, so you don't have to write that down. If you're interested, but you can find it. Anyway, we have also extended our core team since we first started with reproducibility. So now we've got like a whole team of people who are trying to organize this. And these are the current team members, who are of course fantastic people. But if it weren't for the local journal club leads, such as Clarissa, like none of this community would be happening. So yeah, some really, really cool people. Right, having told you some basic facts about the organization, why do I think you should join a journal club that focuses on reproducible science, such as reproducibility, yeah, such as the one I guess that you're already here for. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir. So you should join that to read interesting papers, to learn more about interesting ideas and skills surrounding robust science with interesting people, most of the time early career researchers, which will help create a community around open science, and helping each other out with issues surrounding that as well. So the main aspect, I guess, supposedly, is reading the papers, as with any journal club, and discussing the scientific research and that you find in those articles and other outlets. So the key goals of that supposed main aspect are to explore ideas surrounding open and reproducible science together with your peers, importantly in a space without or with less pushback from higher up. And by reading and discussing that research, you'll learn how to criticize science, and this will probably help improve your own research. And always doing all of that helps you build a community of like-minded people and of visible proponents of open and reproducible science. And I think that really is the main aspect of a journal club community like this. So as I said earlier, we first started this because we were frustrated with the status quo. And then setting up a journal club was really straightforward, and it was very effective in transforming our frustration into something that sort of very quickly resembled a community, and that was better able to create change than just our sort of moans were. And yeah, what do I mean by community? So most importantly, that's your local journal club, or in this case, a virtual journal club, and any extensions of that. That probably entails being somewhat of a more visible proponent of open and robust research in your institution. Or you might just feel more comfortable talking about these issues with your lab, if you know that you have a community that you can come back to and sort of vent to about any issues that you might have encountered. But community also means, in the case of reproducibility at least, the global reproducibility community that you can connect to through the internet, of course, mostly, for example, through Twitter or the Slack or other virtual meetings, such as the big meeting that we just had. Hopefully we'll have another one at some point soon. And to let the community speak, here are some quotes from people who are involved in reproducibility. So you don't just have to take my word, but also some anonymous quotes that Jade collected. She's one of the core team members. So it's been a brilliant chance for me to try building a community in the workplace with amazing support. I value reproducibility because it offers multinational social support, collaborative opportunities, and knowledge exchange. I like that it allows people to designate some time in their schedule for thinking about the big, uncomfortable questions that might be making most of the rest of their schedule obsolete, but hopefully just means they can do better work. And finally, it's showing departments that ECRs want to be part of a big change, even if there's no university leadership yet. We are the change that is needed in research practice and culture. Right. So I hope that wasn't too much of a weird advertisement thing, but I think it's quite nice to hear from other people as well. Right, so as I said, there's a huge international community now. Your new journal club is already virtual, but others across the world are currently doing the same because of Corona, and people are joining the meetings from wherever and wherever. We've got a calendar that's online, but we're also retweeting meetings that are open to others. So check out our Twitter for that. Finally, as we're talking about how to create change and how to build communities, I wanted to highlight an issue ECRs might face. There's this idea that early career researchers, especially very early career researchers and students, don't have any skin in the game. Because they haven't published yet, or they haven't published that much. And also, we're just starting out in our career, so who are we to talk? And well, we are at the very beginning of our careers, and we are in a particularly vulnerable and precarious position because of that. But we do know things, and we also do have something that more senior people might envy. We have the advantage that we are still idealistic, and that we're freer because we have no or little skin in the game. And of course, because engaging with open science reforms might lead you to learn new skills such as coding, which is super transferable and also gives you freedom in what you want to do. So it's no surprise that early career researchers are often leading when it comes to open science reforms. I think, they're often leading on open science reforms. And I do think we should use this to our advantage. So you use this freedom, use this idealism to create change. But at the same time, I think it's important to make sure that we're not just cannon fodder. So that's what Anita called this issue on Friday at the big meeting. So that means that we have to be careful that adopting and advocating for open science reforms early on in your career isn't a disadvantage later on. And I think that's a difficult issue with no clear solution. But I think and I hope that creating strong communities of early career researchers and open science advocates hopefully helps with ensuring that we work towards a better science and a better scientific system, while having also have that be an advantage, not a disadvantage. But it is a difficult issue. Right, I think I'm at the end. Here's some links. Thank you so much for your attention. As I said, I'm really excited that you're starting a reproducibility journal club in Brazil, and I'm so excited to see what happens with that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're really excited about starting this journal as well. I'm really looking forward to know how it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to go, but thank you for your talk. I already have some questions, but I think I would still leave them for later. Maybe Felippe can start sharing the screen and.
Yeah, if you want, there's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. So I'm going to maintain my video turned off because I lost like 30 seconds of Anita's presentation.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
but I can hear you. I can hear you well anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Nobody Science Group, which is a group to discuss, develop, and inform people about how to do this they are silent projects without any budget or just a little bit of money. So it all started at the beach in one of our scientific retreats in 2016. In this scientific retreat that we make, our lab makes, they are more to discuss about new scientific ideas, new projects. And one of the ideas that came up was like, let's find like-minded people to do no-budget science. So first of all, we are making this transition from the more traditional web bench work, that time was about neuroscience, to a more, like, not mathematics, but statistics about neuroscience. And well, because the world has too much data and few people to analyze this data. So because of that, we start to looking more about no-budget science. Well, of course, we are in the middle of a financial crisis right now also, so it can be helpful. So the no-budget science philosophy, well, it's more about like doing project not using money or a little bit of money. So we could include like bioinformatics, meta-analysis, systematic reviews, and other things. And because of that, young researchers can be independent at the moment they enter the lab. So they are not like hostage of their own budgets. So because of that, we need to provide them some tools to make this philosophy works. So first of all, we need to provide tools and methodologies. So Python and R, which are programming languages, free programming languages. Gephi, which is open software about construct and developing graphs, and how to storage their protocols and methodology in OSF. And the second thing that we need to do the no-budget science projects is more like data. Data is necessary. So we have this open science mind. So we need open data, open source, open access to all the studies to do this secondary data analysis. So the third thing that we need to think in how to inform people about this kind of projects is how to gather them in the same place. So one of the strategies that we made at the time, I think that is gonna work in every place in the world, but in Brazil, I think it works really fine. It's giving them free beer. So giving them free beer, take the formal seminary thing to a more informal discussion. So it worked really well because of that. So the format, it was like the more traditional seminar with 3 invited speakers talking about their project, their no-budget science project or low-budget science. And the most important thing to us is about the second. It was pitch your project idea. It's someone like speak for 5 minutes, only about the idea. They don't need preliminary results. And after that, they discuss about all the projects and the ideas. And unfortunately, almost all the events were in Portuguese. I think one was in English. But yeah, since we are held in Rio de Janeiro, in the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, we made this in Portuguese. So because of that, no-budget science was born. So we have like a reasonable audience with more than 20 events already made. And 2 of them were made in Porto Alegre, which is in another state of Brazil. And we don't know if it was the alcohol or it was a no demand to us at the time, but it really worked fine. And one of the interesting things for us is like we made these themed events, like in World Cup, we make the football and science together. And after some events, I think 18 events, we start to look back and see how much we did to the community that we are building. So unfortunately, all the projects that we tried to look, only 2 of them were published, and Clarissa was one of the first authors in one of them, and the 2 of them were from our lab. So we are providing the tool, trying to develop with them the no-budget science project, but only we could finish them. So because of that, we stopped the event and stopped thinking about how to improve the event, or even if we need to like stop, this is not going, it's not going well. So one of the ideas that came up was doing a hack week. So a hack week is more like between a summer school, when you spend like a month doing a project and learning about other things, and the hackathon, which is like 2 or 3 days of working plans. So since it's between, like you have like a week to learn about something, but in the end you need to really work on a project. So with this idea, we started this hack week in 2019, funded by Pela, Instituto, IBKM, and other institutes. And that were 18 participants from 6 different states, 4 men and 14 women, and 7 invited speakers. And 4 groups were made in this hack week from 2019. One group developed one online platform to improve citizen science. So I'm going to be a little bit generic right here, but citizen science is more like helping the researcher with the community, helping the researcher to develop his own project. So the second one is analyze gender bias during funding process, which Pela really liked and used in one of their selections. And the third one is developing a new quantitative index to measure transparency and rigor in study. And the fourth one is more like analyze and see how to make a better data structure and use Wikidata to biological data. So for us, since we make this like 4 projects, it was a really huge success. So because of that, our next step is construct the No-Budget Science Hack Week in this year, but it's not going to be held in Rio de Janeiro. It's going to be held in São Paulo, another state, in the São Paulo University. So yeah, it was going to happen in the end of July, but yeah, we had decided no, that right now it's going to be happening only after the quarantine. So for us, it's like more building a community, this no-budget science community. Like we have this hack week organizers on the left, like Clarissa participated in this hack week of 2019. But right now we have these current members, and 4 of them, the 4 below here, they are participants from the Hack Week 2019. So for us, it's like a really good thing. And I think that's it. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram if you want to send us an idea, a project, or really if you only need to talk with us, you can send them. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, it was really fun hearing all of you. I have my own questions, but I think there are 2 that I took notes here from the Zoom chat.
I want to follow, so you can put me in line.
Okay. So Vanessa asked, said thank you for your presentation, and I'm wondering how you get grants to support the open science communities, and if you have researchers dedicated full-time.
So in the beginning, we had no money at all. So I think for the first full year, we paid everything out of our own pocket. And we also did everything in our own time. I think the university just wanted to see first what we were up to and whether it was going to be successful or not. Then after a year, they decided to fund us. So our university is supportive of open science, and they have their own budget for open science initiatives. And that's what we get paid from. So basically, I get paid 2 days a week to work for the community, and Luke as well. And then from the beginning of this year, we also received money to get so-called faculty ambassadors. So one person from each faculty that will be paid to spend half a day per week to work for the community, which is pretty cool because before that it was just the two of us, and we work in our own faculty, but we don't really know what's going on in the other faculties. And it's easier if you have a person there that knows other people that can report back to us to tell us what's going on, what the issues are, what people need. So we do have a small team that is actually paid. And I know that because our university pays us, that the other universities in the Netherlands also want to start paying people for their community. So we really hope that we can set an example and that other universities are willing to contribute to this as well. Because most universities say that they think open science is important, but then if you see what they actually do, it's basically nothing. Sometimes they have a plan, they say it's important and we should start open science practices, but it's not very concrete. So if there's no funding, I would recommend to look for any plan or vision with respect to open science and to open the debate about that.
Well, thank you. I think the other projects also have funding experiences. Maybe you'd like to talk about that as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think so. At the very beginning, we just got some funding for like tea and biscuits from Reprodutibilidade Research Oxford. So that was some initiative that was already in place. And well, since then we've been funded by the UK Reproducibility Network. But yeah, nothing like Anita's kind of scale of funding at all. So yeah, this is just smaller organizations helping us out, basically.
Yeah, for us it was just the Hack Week that we made. All the seminar events, they are made like from donation box that we place during the seminars, and if someone wants to donate some money to us to buy the free beer, they are freely to.
We did do a formal crowdfunding once, like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think we're part of that, but we got like, I don't know, $200 or something like that at the current rate just for beer. The Hack Week, I mean, you have to like fly people in, so yeah, we went, but it's still like very small grants, and I think we've made an option of like not going for like very big. I mean, if you go to I mean, we could go to the university, whatever, but that's super bureaucratic. So like, I think we make kind of like a choice of holding out and I mean, do it as low budget as you can. Makes you a bit freer, more. I think that's part of the.
I think in dollars right now it's going to be like 2,000. I think 2,000 or 3,000 that we already spent on the last Hack Week. I don't remember right now.
Yeah, maybe $4,000 at the
Thank you. I have a second question from Mailton Vasconcelos. Can you guys comment on people actively working against open science? Is there a thing? Did you get any pushback from? I think I would add to this question by specifically asking if there was any pushback from more senior faculty members.
I think we had someone with the very first journal club. We had someone like more senior send us like a link to an article about Amy Cuddy and sort of saying, well, you should also discuss this, and like some other sort of suggestions, kind of hinting that we're not like that there are lots of sides to all of this kind of thing. But I don't think we got anything more aggressive than that towards the journal club. I mean, I've had my fair sort of share of experiences when it comes to people actively working against open science. But I think as soon as you organize, it gets a lot harder for you to be targeted like that, right? Because you are visible then, and you are in a group, and people, I do think it gets harder to be targeted, and you'll never convince the people that are truly actively working against this. So with them, it's just, I mean, if you end up in an unlucky position where your advisor is someone who actively works against open science, having a community in the background to vent again might be super helpful. Or otherwise, I mean, at some point, it's not. I do think it's not worth fighting on against that, and it might be better to just change, kind of thing, because it's not worth it. I think if you have those values and someone is actively working against them, who's higher up than you, right? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Does anyone else wants to talk?
Personal experience is just like selfish persons try not to sharing their own data, like the databases and anything. But that was just a personal experience. And I think for the nobody science is more like conversations about science need money, you can't advance without this. But in the end, that doesn't make any sense, because sometimes you need to make reviews and this kind of studies to really improve science. So I think that for the nobody science, it was almost this.
Cool, thank you.
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I also don't encounter people that are actively against open science via our events, for example, because they don't show up. But if you go to other events and you start talking to people about open science, then people will open up. And what you see is that most of the time people are just afraid, or they are scared about change. They usually have misconceptions about what open science is about, what is possible, what's not possible, and what open science entails. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, that a lot of people that are so vocal or actively against open science are actually scared and afraid.
Yeah, but if they're scared and afraid people who are in positions of power over young researchers, researchers early on in their career, then that's, I mean, it's quite irresponsible. And I think it's, I do think obviously it's worth trying to tell them what you know about this, and sort of take away that fear.
But it's a lot of hard work.
It's hard work.
On one-on-one discussions. They don't come to regular events.
Yeah, and then you get that issue again where why should they listen to the grad students? So I do think it's worth trying, and I do think it's worth organizing and pushing for change that way, kind of making them see your arguments through more official channels, kind of thing. But I think it's really, really tough on a one-on-one level if there's a hierarchy sort of differential involved.
Yeah, I have a question of my own, if I may. It's following on that, do you think engaging and organizing these events or these communities had any negative impact on your careers, be it about your time dedication or about this kind of feedback from other members of hierarchies? Sorry. Did you think there was any negative impact to your research, to your own research questions and research career?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah,
sorry, my
all of you, yeah.
It's very unstable, so I only got half of the question.
Yeah, no, if nobody had any negative impact, it would be great to hear.
I didn't have negative.
Yeah, me too. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think I did. And to be honest, like
Exactly.
if I did and I haven't noticed, then like I wouldn't care, right? Like I really like the idea of academia, and I really like what I do, but I don't have to do this. And so if working towards this, working for this, better and more open science is going to hurt my career, then like I don't need this. So I don't think it has impacted me negatively. I think it, if anything, has impacted me positively. But yeah, as I said, I wouldn't care if it did.
Cool. Yeah, really nice. I think Olavo is next, and then I have another question from Clarissa Nascimento.
I have a couple of questions. One, I think both of all the initiatives have kind of like branched out, especially like Anita's and Sophia's. Maybe Nobody Science a little bit last, but that one I know about. So like, how do you feel about decentralizing, and how do you deal with like preserving an identity versus just like letting people do whatever? I mean, like I'm a super centralizer, so like I would be like terrified that like Reprodutibility Singapore is doing something weird. So like how do you deal with that, like becoming a bigger community of like larger things, like other people organizing? How much do you have to keep it kind of like together, like versus how can you let it scatter? And second question is really like, I think I'm the oldest person here, and like there's like all this talk about like early career researchers, etc. How do you get the old people on board, or do you even want to? I mean, should we just like wait for them to die away? Or maybe, I mean, it's been like a young people's thing. I think from all sides. So like, and that might be fine. I mean, those might be the people that are actually sensitive to change, and that you should invest on. But like, how do you feel about like getting more experienced researchers on board? How hard it is? How worth trying is this?
So to take the second question first, I do think that there's some value in having these kind of meetings be largely early career researchers and sort of very clear proponents of open science that are more senior, just to like sort of to have that sort of safe space, I guess, to vent and to discuss these things more, like sort of without these sort of fears of being judged from someone higher up, I guess. Though I know that there are lots of representative communities that are much more mixed in terms of seniority. And so so I think representability focuses on people who are early career in general, but it's definitely not exclusive. And I do think that it's helpful to have that that sort of, not younger, sort of like more early career community. And by creating that, you do end up with lots of visibility for these issues, and you do end up getting people engaged. Just because like if your grad students are all joining these journal clubs and talking about these papers, and then sort of also talking back, sort of coming back to you and talking about them to you, that's probably more effective than, I don't know. I was like older, sort of more senior people probably also don't have that much time compared to grad students, or that much sort of free time, not scheduled time, right? So I think it works. When it comes to decentralization, we thought a lot about that. I think we ended up with a definition of a reproducibility journal club that was literally just a sort of a journal club meeting thing that uses the name and the logo and discusses research surrounding open science issues or something like that, like very, very rough. We have also been a bit worried about what might happen if a journal club sort of goes in a completely different direction and does something that, right, it's absolutely fine if it's completely different research, but like what if something like weird happens and it turns into like into something that we don't want it to be, that we don't want to associate with, and we're not quite sure what we want to do with that. We're hoping at this stage that if that does happen, it should be very clear that that's got nothing to do with us, but we don't have a fail-proof plan for that, because we do want people to keep that freedom to make it what they want it to be in their own institutions, because it's, I mean, we're literally talking like so many different countries. Like, how could you make a centralized thing for that? Like even talking about codes of conduct, we have not gotten anywhere there yet, because we just think it would be too much to at this point to organize this in a way that we know that all sort of cultural differences are accounted for there. So very different from the very centralized approach.
Yeah, thank you.
So, well, we are just expanding. So these are things that we have been thinking about a lot. And what we came up with is a set of guiding principles that are pretty rough, but it just lays out what a community is, that it should be open to all, that it should organize things related to open science. So it is rough, but it gives some kind of guidance. So every new community should agree with these principles if they want to use the same logo. And of course, everybody is free to start their own community with their own logo and their own ideas. But if they want to use the same logo, then they should accept the guiding principles. And we also have a code of conduct.
I think our logo is under a Creative Commons license, so we wouldn't even be able to actually tell anyone that they can't use it. But so.
You probably grew too fast.
You grew very fast.
Or you could think of these issues, right?
No, we started thinking about this when we were like at like 30 journal clubs or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to even try to keep centralized, right? Don't go crazy over that. I have another question here from Clarissa Nascimento for Anita. Could you say some words about the link between open science and a more inclusive science?
Open science and?
Inclusive science.
Inclusive science? I'm not sure if I understand that question. To me, inclusiveness is part of open science. So that means that everybody, it has different aspects. So it means that everybody should have access to science. Everybody should be able to participate in science. And that once we conduct science, we make sure that that we are not running experiments just on weird samples, for example, but that we include the world as a whole into our science. So to me, those aspects of inclusiveness are part of what open science is. But I'm not sure if I interpret the question correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Clarissa wants to talk or write some more, but I think here we talk a lot about inclusiveness in terms of having more women doing research or more early career researchers being more empowered to talk about or write about and organize things and be published and things around that.
And I think,
I don't know if this is what she meant exactly, but I think this is a common thing that we talk about in Brazil.
Yeah, then I think that part of open science is also how we value science and how we evaluate people that are conducting research. And I think that if we value open science more, and if we focus more on team science, then in the end, that will be probably better for everybody, but probably also for women, because they tend to, well, maybe not always take the lead, but do collaborate with other people. So if we focus more on team science, if we focus more on that people do have different talents, but that we need it all for our research, I think that would be beneficial to probably most people.
Well, yeah, I think open science also a good way to get anywhere we want to. We're closing on 4 here. It's 9 at your local time, right? So I don't want to keep you much longer if you have to go, but I would like to have a last question about how do you think was the general impact? Do you think that there was enough people offering help as much as there were people asking for help? And around the no budget science project also, I don't really know how did these projects took on after the week exactly. Did they continue? Are they ongoing? How is this going?
So the gender bias, actually, it's already finished. The Serra Pilheira Institute, they used the data for the, I think the last selection. I don't remember right well. Olavo could talk about this, but weak data, Thiago, which is the one who is in the chat here, he worked with weak data, so it was a previous experience to him. But I think the other two, I don't remember if they were ongoing or they just finished on the Hack Week.
Citizen Science one got a small grant as an extension thing from our university. So I think this, I mean, there's, it's not active yet. Like the website is not active yet, but I think they're at least trying to move on with it. The other one, I don't know. That one might have died away.
Yeah, Thiago told that Sarah took the citizen science a bit further. Yeah.
But again, I think that's something that we do worry about. Like we had like very good project starts. I mean, not all of them were carried forward. That said, I'm not sure you can expect like every one of them will. I'd like to have some more. But again, I think like just the idea of like can we develop like a basic outlook for a project? I think it's a learning experience. But I'm not sure we're actually making projects happening. I think it empowers people more than the event. But we'd like to see more of them continuing. But I mean that's beyond our like people are free to go on with them or not. So like we cannot go after them, right?
Yeah, and well, in one event we could like make this 2 or 4 projects, and with 3 years of seminars we could like do just 2, and it was with our labs. So I think it's a huge improvement.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know if Anita or Sophia wants to talk more about this or have any further experience on, I mean, the organizers versus the participants becoming more active in offering help or presenting journals or organizing the events and so on. Were you able to engage them, or do you continue with invitation system or something like that?
I think Anita said that she needs to go, right?
Yes,
Oh,
sorry, but I need to go.
Oh, no, sure.
No, please go ahead, continue the discussion with me. If there are any more questions, just send me an email.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, have a nice day.
Great talking to you. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, when it comes to sort of how organizers and participants are engaging with it. So, I mean, with the journal clubs that I've been part of, this is not really been an issue. Like you do mostly, so like in Berlin, for example, we've had different presenter every week this entire semester, just volunteering. So that, yeah, I think it works really well overall, and I think that's the case mostly. And we're planning on starting a kind of initiative where the local reproducibility journal clubs can invite people from like all across the world, like reproducibility members who are happy to give talks. So I have like a kind of big database for local leaders to invite people from, sort of both to get ECRs more exposure without having to travel, of course, because, well, now we can't, but also like researchers often can't afford to do that. and to get sort of more variety and volunteers kind of thing to reproducibility journal clubs around the world. So we're hoping to start that soon, if that's an issue for other reproducibility journal clubs. Yeah, but in general, it's been really, really good, I think, because people are really excited about these issues, right?
Yeah, cool. I was expecting some more trouble to getting people to talk at our journal clubs as well. Maybe for I don't know, fear of exposure. We're doing this online thing to get more people from around the country to join, and right now we can't even join locally, meet locally. But yeah, it's good to hear that people really do get excited and engaged and want to present. I hope.
I think they do. Just make sure that people feel safe to do that, right?
Cool.
And then,
yeah.
like, what's the harm in presenting?
So
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
The journal club?
Yeah. Thank you, Sophia, very much, Ian. I'm not sure if you want to stay around for the journal club, but I think we're going to switch to Portuguese now. This actually was one of the issues that we thought about, having the journal club in and getting cross language barriers and having people more comfortable to talking, debating. Yeah,
So it sounds like the perfect idea to have it in Portuguese. But my Portuguese doesn't extend beyond what I told you in the beginning. So I'm probably going to log off. But it's been so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, and congratulations on your Portuguese as well. It was awesome.
The 3 sentences you get.
Oh, it was really, really good.